presented by the Social Sciences Academic Resources Center. My name is Alina, and I am one of your SARC peer consultants. I'm also joined by my fellow colleague and SARC peer consultant, Livni. Our special guest today is Dr. Jeanette Castellanos, Associate Dean of the School of Social Sciences, who will share more information about how you can supplement your education with cultural awareness, knowledge, and skills. If you have any questions, please submit them through the Zoom Q&A feature, which is located at the bottom of your screen, and we will be addressing all of those questions at the end. Without further ado, Dr. Castellanos, you may begin.
Welcome, and thank you all for joining. It's exciting to have so many of you here today. Looking forward to see what this certificate has to offer. So we have a few slides that we're going to go through today, and then we'll go ahead and allow for questions and answers. So let's start by, I like to always start things on a positive note. So I will be congratulating you for understanding and exploring the role of culture in your education, for recognizing that the role, there's a chat question there, recognizing that the role of cultural understanding is imperative for you to be ready for the workforce, and for taking an active role, right, for serving a diverse population. So as you see America grow, and we are over 300 million people, you also see the diversity of America becoming more and more prominent. And so strong scholars and graduates learn the role of culture in America. Strong scholars and graduates understand the factors that contribute to power. Strong scholars and graduates can identify injustice when they see it. Strong scholars and graduates know history of racial minority, REM, which is racial, ethnic, minoritized groups. And strong scholars and graduates work through cultural empathy models to serve. So historically, cultural competence was the word that we all use. This is why your certificate is called cultural competence, but we are moving towards cultural empathy, and that's a skill as well that you want to be aware of. Just a reference of my pictures here for those of you who are not aware. That is Kamala Harris, who is our vice president-elect. And if you see her, the picture behind her, represents the Brown versus Board of Education, access to education. And so this really tells us the importance of understanding history and where it takes us. All right, so a couple of outcomes for cross-cultural training. Of course, your attitude and emotions change. Your knowledge is also expanded, and your behavior also improves. And so if you look at attitude, greater enjoyment in cross-cultural interactions, better adjustment to stress, an increased awareness in the world-mindedness, right? For knowledge, you get a better understanding of other cultures. You develop a more complex way of thinking. And then obviously, if your behavior, you're better at your job, right? You're better at exchanging with people. You're better at problem solving. So you do want to know that as I created this cultural competency certificate, we worked from a counseling psychology model, which basically ultimately says that you have 3 levels of cultural competence. One is awareness, one is knowledge, and the third is skill. So our goal is to get you closer to that skill. Here you just have a nice graph that's showing you a little bit about cultural awareness, competence, and cultural respect. So clearly, we want to be aware of different groups, different identities, different cultures, and then you want to be able to be competent in working with these groups. Finally, by developing these skills, you become more respectful. You don't make judgments, you don't make assumptions, and you practice in competency. And that is one of our goals. As you begin to think about exploring the cultural competency certificate, you want to know that as I created this training and curriculum, it was really critical for me to help you realize that your identities are very important as you go through this journey. You can't just think, well, I'm going to learn about all those people out there, but not have your own personal journey. So I really want to emphasize how both of these models or circles tell you that we got to know a little bit about how race and ethnicity or age or gender or sexuality play out in our lives. And then from there, you'll see the other variables, and they begin to basically create what we call intersectionality. So being able to understand how the multiple identities that one has impact one another, and then are influenced and are influenced and then impacted by the experiences in society. So here, as we move through, who are you and what forms your perception? So you are going to, if you like the idea of pursuing this particular certificate, you're going to do a little bit of self-examination. You're going to recognize some of the aspects of your own identity and your lenses, cultural lenses. You're going to reflect on your reactions and interpretation of people who are of a particular group or culture. And you're also going to hopefully learn about your own prejudices. The idea to believe that you don't have any prejudices, that is a myth. We all have them, and we all have to work to move away from them. Finally, I just wanted to put in here a slide on cultural competency. So it says becoming culturally competent and practicing cultural humility are ongoing processes that change in the response to a new situation. So we do want to gain cultural competency, and through cultural competency, we are able to be more culturally engaged more in cultural humility. So as scholars, social advocacy scholars, you begin to think of the world and health and people from a holistic perspective. You begin to see that there is a need for cultural understanding. You begin to see the power and role of history and trauma, the recognition of human rights and the centrality of kinship. So you really start to, I think, expand those lenses that go beyond what sometimes people do in the classroom. Finally, I just put here some of the outcomes that we have outlined for our certificate, which basically says this is how you're going to gain through awareness. This is how you're going to gain through through knowledge and training. And ultimately, this is the skill that we hope that you attain. And so we want you to understand, cultural self-awareness. We want you to build a recognition of sources that, with differences, and still be comfortable with that. We want you to have knowledge, right? That beyond this concept, so you can understand oppression and racism, discrimination, and all these pieces, ultimately making you much more skilled. Finally, these are the requirements, right, for the certificate, so that we could then engage a little bit about why the certificate, any questions you may have. But the certificate has only 5 classes that are required. And these 5 classes are divided by 5 main areas. And they include areas of diversity, areas of culture, politics, culture and politics, gender and sexuality, history, and global understanding. So if you go into our website, which is here, give me a minute, control.
Oh, yes, we have it in the chat right now.
Oh, you do? Okay, good. So I'll let them do that. Perfect. If you go into that website, you'll see that there's a full list, right, of, I don't know, over 100 courses, I guess, 50 courses that you can select from in different dimensions. And so you also want to know that any person and any major can pursue this opportunity, and that some of your major requirements can already be fulfilling some of the requirements for this certificate. So with that said, I've reached the last portion of my slideshows here, and I want to thank you. I want to thank the SARC for hosting this important event with me tonight or today, and we'll now take any questions people may have.
Thank you, Dr. Castellanos. We will now be answering your questions. Please continue to submit them through the Q&A. As of now, we will ask some of the pre-submitted questions. The first one being the following: is this certificate open to graduate students?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm working with another colleague of mine. We're trying to see if grad students can start to get credit. All the courses are undergraduate courses, but we will issue that to a grad student if they want it. But at this point, all the courses are undergraduate courses, so they won't get credit for, towards their graduate studies. We would be happy though if we find that there's a great interest in at the graduate level, we can sit and look at all the courses that are being offered at the graduate level so that we can equally have a set of curriculum for our graduate students. It would be great to see that there is a request or a demand at that level.
Right. And the next question would be, can we do another certificate offered by our major at the same time?
Dr. Castellanos? She might have frozen. Yeah, looks like she might have freezed, but that's okay. Yes, the answer is you can be doing another certificate at the same time. It just depends, on your specific course schedule and your workload. Are you going to be able to complete all the different certificates that you want to complete in the time that you would like to graduate? Okay. Let's see. I know that there's a couple other questions. Would you like to read those, Livni? And then hopefully Dr. C is able to come back. And then we can certainly try to get her back and hopefully answer those, or I can try to answer them.
Right. So the next question we have in the Q&A is, what opportunities can I seek out after completing the certificate as an undergraduate student? I am a third-year political science major.
Yes, so let's see. I think besides seeking out the certificate beyond the cultural competency, so like I mentioned, being able to seek out other certificates, you may also want to consider, if you have enough room in your schedule, minoring or double majoring in some way. And also consider other things that maybe you want to look into, like research or internships, or perhaps getting involved in a leadership position. Think about ways that you can kind of boost your resume or your CV. And this certificate is certainly one of those things that you can do to be able to kind of boost your resume for graduate school or other things later on as well.
Awesome. So the next question would be, do we apply after we have completed the 5 classes?
Let's see here. Do we apply after? Yes, that is correct. So on the website that we shared with you, once you believe that you completed all the 5 courses, you'd go ahead and submit an application. And then once you submit your application, it'll take a couple business days to be able to kind of get your certificate. Now, this will all happen via email nowadays. You won't have to come and pick up your certificate. Another thing is, for a lot of students, they might have taken a class that they believe counts as part of one of the areas. And if it is not listed on the course list, you can actually petition to get that course approved. Again, this is all a case-by-case basis. So we would just take a look at the course syllabus and see if it kind of hits those points that this certificate is looking for.
Right. And then we have a clarification. By opportunities that they were seeking, they meant opportunities with Dr. Castellanos.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, so one thing I'm going to share is that Dr. Castellanos actually has student hours every other week, so on odd weeks. So her next one is happening, I believe, at 10 a.m. On Tuesday next week. And so I would encourage you to actually attend those student hours if you can, or set up a meeting with her at an alternate time. But there you can learn a little bit more about how to get involved with Dr. Castellanos, whether it's through research or just having a conversation with her. But I would definitely kind of promote those student hours. And maybe, Alina, if you could take a look at that Google form and see if you can kind of find that and maybe put that in the chat.
And so our next question is the following: is a certificate almost similar to an AA?
In terms of AA, what do you mean by that? Acronyms. Like an associate's degree, or if you can kind of clarify, that would be awesome. And let's see, I think we have another question in the chat. Is that right, Lindy?
They just clarified that it's an associate's degree.
Associate's degree. So no, this is not the same as another degree. And ultimately, I think we have Dr. Castellanos potentially back. Let's see here. Dr. Castellanos, is that you? Oh, well. But anyways, no, it's not the same as an associate degree. It just kind of supplements your opportunity to take advantage of these courses in particular. So not equivalent. And it does not necessarily show up on your transcript either. I mean, the courses will be on your transcript, but the degree, it's not as certified on your transcript. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question.
The next question is from the chat, and they are asking that if they took a required course as a concurrent enrollment course during high school, would that still count towards a certificate?
Let's see. Trying to mute Dr. C here. It looks like she can't. Hopefully, Dr. C can. I'm trying to ask to unmute yourself, but doesn't look like I can. Anyways, I'll continue to answer this last question here. So, do I have to take these 5 classes for a letter grade, or can I do pass, no pass? Oh, that's a really great question. I believe. That's probably a good question for Dr. C. I believe they can be either, but that could be a question that maybe we can ask Dr. Castellanos a little bit later. All right, any other questions that we have going on here?
I believe there was a question on the chat that said if they took a required course as a concurrent enrollment course during high school, would that still count towards a certificate?
Let's see. I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yes, of course. So if they took a required course as a concurrent enrollment course during high school, would that still count towards a certificate?
In high school, so it would have to be a course here at UCI. Okay. And then let's see here. Any other questions? Oh, we got another one.
Right. So the next question is wondering.
A community college. Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think with these types of courses, you would have to do the petition, okay? And so once you submit the petition, and hopefully you'll need to still have the syllabi on hand, and then we can actually take a look if this course indeed has been obviously is on your transcript or has been, I guess, communicated through your academic advisors. And then we can take a look and then approve this petition if it meets all those requirements. But that is a really great question. We've had students in the past that have studied abroad and taken a class abroad, and we were able to approve of that because it was approved through their academic advisors and it's currently on their transcript. Yeah, let's see here. Patrick, do we have Dr. C on or not yet?
No, it wasn't letting me unmute her.
Yeah, same thing here. I couldn't unmute her. So I've been trying. But but that's okay. We're getting these questions answered. And again, any other questions like the grades for pass no pass, we'll definitely ask her and then email those questions out as well. But yes, let's see. Any other questions? Hopefully we can answer. And again, sorry about the technical difficulties here. No, I think maybe we should be okay.
We do have one more question in the
We do?
chat.
Okay.
So it's asking, so a concurrent enrollment course that fulfills one of my GEs cannot be used for the certificate. And it's a question. I can only take required courses at UCI. And that would be another question.
So if it's on the approved list, then it would count, okay? Even if it satisfies, let's say like a GE. And yes, technically the courses should be at UCI, but if it's not, like a community college class or one that you've taken in Spain when you were abroad, this is where the petition comes in. So there's not a guarantee that that class or that course will be satisfied, or that will satisfy that requirement, but it's your opportunity to make your case for that if you have the syllabi at hand. So hopefully that makes sense, and that kind of helps clarify. And that's why we have the petition in place. For classes that are not necessarily on the course list, even for UCI classes that are not on the course list yet. And we're continuing to expand that course list as these kind of petitions arise and students continue to take these classes and believe that it satisfies those requirements.
And I believe there's another question on the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
Someone is wondering how we have benefited from the certificate.
Yeah, I don't think any of you have taken it yet, right? Or at least considered in taking the courses. Have you thought about it? No. So yeah, none of us have taken, I have definitely not have taken it, but I think one of the ways that you can benefit from the courses, again, is being able to open eyes to these specific areas, right? Especially nowadays in terms of what's going on within our world and just social unrest. It's now more important than ever to have cultural competency skills in the workplace. And so these are certainly very transferable, whether you decide to pursue a career after UCI, a job, or whether you decide to pursue graduate school later on. Looks like we have Dr. Castellanos back, so hooray. And so hopefully that helps answer. But Dr. Castellanos, one of the questions that we're currently answering right now is how have students benefited from this certificate?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm sorry that they are fixing my neighbor's grid. So they decided to kill my grid. I had to go outside and be a bit mean. Anyhow, so thank you all for taking all the calls. Carissa, I was actually in the call. There's no way to unmute me through the phone for some reason. So to answer some people's questions, there's a tremendous gain by getting the certificate, because only that you get a degree does not mean that you're culturally aware or knowledgeable or skilled. This shows that you took initiative, that you've taken a number of courses. So you're able to put this, and you're also able to talk about it in your personal statement. And so I think it's a nice compliment as employers and graduate schools want to see people show cultural inclusivity and cultural understanding. This is a great way to show that.
Awesome. And then Livni, go ahead and ask those last two questions that I think Dr. Castellanos can provide more insight on.
Of course. So one of the questions that we have left to answer is if they have to take these 5 classes for a letter grade, or if they can do pass no pass.
I think it's letter grade, because we want to make sure they're not getting Fs. Cultural competency would mean that we would want to see them, passing. And so I would prefer that to be a letter grade.
Right. And so the next question is that they are explaining that they are a transfer student and they took an African American history course in community college and are wondering if this will count towards the certificate.
So if they took it at the 2-year, we're happy to actually see the curriculum, actually, because they're transfer students. And because they're transfer students, I'm happy to look at the syllabus to see what they had to do. I wouldn't do that for any undergraduate who came in as a freshman, right? Because I think part of it is here you come in as a transfer, those years count. And I'm happy to look at that and consider any classes that you think qualify for this certificate.
Okay, sounds great.
Mhm.
They were also wondering if it didn't count towards it, what other courses that are African American history related can count towards the certificate.
Yeah. So once you see the requirements, you'll see that there's like a requirement for race and diversity. There's another requirement on history, right? So if somebody ends up having a class that basically covers something about race and history, and it looks like it was pretty substantial, they can petition and I can review that and I can approve that. If somebody took a class about African Americans, and for example, politics and voter suppression and the role of race, and oh, great, I am going to approve that, right? So the concept is, how do you know and how are you understanding the role of culture in today's society? And so if you're able to show that there are 5 courses that you took within those 5 domains that we are outlining, then we are happy to review your petition. Sometimes we do have a limit of how many classes we're going to petition. Otherwise, we're going to, okay, 5 classes out of the UC system. And we certainly still want it to be a UC certificate, but we do consider 1 or 2 classes for petitioning. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for your responses. Very elaborate.
Great. Any other questions? I apologize for that happening. Not in my control, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You can put this certificate on your resume, on your CV. You know, I'm under the belief that my students today coming from a UC system should have CVs. And if you don't know what a CV, you should look that up. Especially if you're going to go to grad school. If you're applying to a job, yeah, definitely a resume is suffice, a 1-pager suffice. But once you go on to grad school or you're applying to a master's or a PhD, I want you guys to have CVs. And this will definitely be part of your CV. No, do I need to receive an A to get a certificate? No, you can get a B. Suffice. I just need you to show competency. I can't give you one for a D or an F. No, right? But I want you to show me that you tried and that there was an interest and that you have gained some knowledge. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Did we have a good turnout, Carissa?
Yes, a good amount. And I think since we are out of time, how about Alina? How about you close for us and tell everyone a little bit about the SARC and how we can help them out?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all once again for joining us today, and a special thank you to Dr. Castellanos for partnering with us. So the Social Sciences Academic Resource is available to support your professional and academic endeavors. So feel free to schedule a consultation with us today. And for more information, you can click on this link in the chat that I will be sending right now. And there you will be able to access a lot of SARC resources, and you can access the appointment system where you can schedule a consultation with the peer consultants, professional staff, or graduate student advisors. If that is all, we can end this webinar, but feel free to ask us questions like over email or attend Dr. C's student hours.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And yes, you'll be emailed all this information as well. Take care.
Be well. Thank you, everybody. Okay.